She comes before the avalanche. She was already there when the first families arrived in the valley. That's the thing the histories don't account for. The assumption is always that the figure is a product of the community, that the folklore generated the belief, that the belief generated the sightings. But the oldest accounts in the Tyrolean records don't describe a tradition forming. They describe a tradition that was already there, already complete, already understood, as if the knowledge arrived with the people fully formed, as if something had been waiting for them to settle in the valley and wanted them to understand the terms immediately. I have been trying to find the origin of this tradition for 3 years. I have not found it. What I have found instead is the strong suspicion that it does not have one, that she was here first, and the tradition is simply the record of her patience. The Tyrolean Alps in winter look exactly like what you imagine when you close your eyes and think of mountains. The postcard version, the version that appears in your mind before you've ever been there. This should tell you something. Places that look exactly like what you expect them to look like are the ones that have spent the longest time being observed, being watched, being described and reproduced until the image is so deeply embedded in the human visual memory that it arrives before experience does. The Tyrolean Alps look like that because they have been looked at for a very long time by a very large number of people and by other things. The farming families who have worked this terrain for generations develop a particular sensitivity to it. Not mystical sensitivity, that is practical sensitivity. The kind that keeps you alive at 2,000 meters or 6,500 feet in February when the temperature drops to minus 15 Celsius, about 5 Fahrenheit, and the snowpack above you is under stress you can see, but can, with enough experience, feel. Part of that sensitivity is animal instinct, the hairs on the back of the neck. The farmers I have spoken to describe a particular sensation that precedes a sighting of the figure, not seeing her first, feeling something first, a change in the quality of air, they say, a feeling of being looked at that is distinct from the ordinary feeling of being watched, more total, more patient, as if whatever is looking at you has been looking for a very long time and is in absolutely no hurry. One man described it as the feeling that the mountain has noticed you, and that it has been noticing you for much longer than you realized. Then you look up, and she's already there, already still, already facing you, always, already facing you. The account describe her in consistent enough terms that I have been able to construct something like a composite. She is tall. The height is described not as remarkable tallness, but as wrong tallness. The proportions slightly misaligned in a way that people struggle to articulate, but consistently flag. Too long somewhere, not where you expect. She is dark, not dressed in dark clothing necessarily. The accounts are unclear on this point in a way that feels significant. She is simply dark against the snow, as if light behaves slightly differently around her, as if she absorbs it rather than reflects it, the way everything else on a snow-covered mountain reflects it. She does not move. This is the detail that appears in every account without exception. She's always still. And the stillness is described consistently as wrong stillness. Not the stillness of a person standing quietly, but the stillness of something that does not share our relationship with time. Something for which the concept of waiting does not apply. Because waiting implies that you want the moment to be over. She does not want anything. She simply is present and still and facing you in the way that a feature of the landscape is present, the way a crevasse is present, the way a cornice is present, the way a drop is present. The accounts also note, and this is the detail that disturbs me the most, the one I keep returning to in the nights since I started this research, that she is never seen twice in the same location. Not that she moves when you look away, never that, simply that no one has ever seen her in the same place twice. Each sighting is in a different location on the mountain. Each time she is already there, already still, already facing whoever is looking. And as if there is not one of her, as if she is everywhere on the mountain that she has not yet been seen. I want to tell you about a sighting from 2003, 23 years ago. The witness is a woman I will call Anna. She's in her mid-40s now. She was a young farmer's wife when it happened. She had been told about a figure. Her husband had told her when she moved in the same matter-of-fact way. He had told her about the water pressure in the pipes and the particular behavior of the east pasture fence in heavy snow. Something you needed to know. A fact about the place. She had nodded and not thought much about it. In February of 2003, she was walking back from a neighboring farm in the late afternoon. The route took her along a path at approximately 1,600 meters, about 5,250 feet, with open slope above her and forest below. A normal route, walked it hundreds of times. She felt it first, the quality of the air changing, the feeling of being observed with a patience that had no human analog. She looked up. The figure was perhaps 300 meters above her, roughly 1,000 feet, on a part of the slope that Anna knew well enough to know that there was no reason for a person to be standing there. No path, no destination above it, just slope and then ridge and then sky. She described the figure as very tall and very dark and completely, absolutely, wrongly still. She said, I knew immediately, not because I recognized what I was seeing, because my body recognized it before I did. I was already moving before I understood why. She went down the slope fast. She did not look back. She had been told not to look back, and she did not look back. And she has never regretted that decision and says she never will. She reached the farmhouse, she told her husband. He looked at her for a long moment, and then went to the window and looked up at the mountain for a long time, without saying a word. The night, they heard it, a sound like the mountain exhaling, a deep, low rumble that built over 30 seconds and then stopped. In the morning, the slope where the figure had been standing was gone, replaced by a debris field of compacted snow, stretching several hundred meters down toward the tree line. I asked Anna if she had ever seen the figure again. She looked at me steadily and said, no, but I have felt it. I asked her what it felt like. She said, like being a problem that something very large and very patient has not yet decided what to do with. I have been researching this tradition for 3 years. I have spoken to people across 4 valleys. I have read every account I can find in local archives and family records, and the kind of oral history that gets transcribed by patient researchers with enough time and enough trust. I cannot explain what the figure is. I can tell you that the pattern of sightings follows avalanche events with a consistency that I find very difficult to attribute coincidence or confirmation bias. I can tell you that the accounts across generations and across families with no documented connection to each other describe the same entity with a specificity that suggests they are describing something real. I can also tell you something I have not told you yet. 3 weeks ago, I was in one of the valleys where I conducted my interviews, arriving back in the late afternoon. The light was going. The slopes above the road were deep in snow. I felt something change in the quality of the air in the car. A feeling of being observed, patient, total, very old. I did not look up the slope. I am aware that this is exactly what everyone tells you not to do. I am aware of exactly what that means. I drove. I kept my eyes on the road, and I did not look up. But here is the thing I have been sitting with since. The instruction is not to look back at her as you leave. Nobody ever specified what happens if you feel her watching you, and you don't look. And she is still there. And she is still there.